So what does success look
that's
like
key.
for this flight number 2? What does success look like for you? What are you trying to achieve?
Well, I do want to set expectations, not too high. So there's a tremendous amount of new technology in this rocket. We have actually changed the entire stage separation system from something that was I'm not sure how to describe this, but kind of just a rotation and flip. We're trying to move to a passive stage step system where you don't have pushers essentially. To try to eliminate parts, there's no pushers, no interstage like Falcon 9 has, and with Flight 2, we're actually trying to do hot staging. So hot staging would mean that we light the ship or upper stage engines while the boost engines are still partially thrusting. So we throttle down and shut down most of the booster engines. Then we light the ship engines, and there's a vent area which looks comically small, actually, which hopefully is enough, because you're essentially blasting the top of the booster with the ship. Now, this is actually, from a physics standpoint, the most efficient way to do stage separation, and the Soviets and later the Russians made extensive use of hot staging. But of course, this is the first time we're doing it, so I would say that's the riskiest part of the flight for Flight 2. And if the engine's light and the ship doesn't blow itself up during stage step, then I think we've got a decent chance of reaching orbit. Now, technically, it's a scooch below orbit because it's going to do almost a complete circle of the Earth, but then splash down somewhere in the Pacific, just off the coast of Hawaii, because the ship is designed to re-enter and has a heat shield. So we want to make, now we don't know if this, we think it'll work, but we aren't sure if it'll work. So if it doesn't work, we want it to not work over the Pacific, which is a very large body of water, with almost no people on it. So.
Excellent target. Excellent target.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I always think it's funny that people call Earth Earth because Earth is water. Earth is 70% water, and if you take an actual round version of the Earth, not a Mercator projection, but at the globe, and you center it on the Pacific, it just looks like water. It's like, where's the land? So anyway, this is quite helpful when you're doing experimental rocket flights.
So how many more test flights are coming up, and when do you think you're going to try to catch Starship on a tower?
With our giant Mechazilla?
Yes.
Giant Mechazilla. Listen, I saw Kong versus Godzilla, and that's what gave me the idea. In fact, if we gave our tower legs, it could just tromp around like Mechazilla. But we have a giant custom-designed tower with massive mechanical arms that will literally try to catch the booster and catch the ship. Which it sounds insane. I mean, I haven't even seen a sci-fi movie that does this, But in theory, it should work. Let's just say success is in the set of possible outcomes. I'm not sure what the probability is, but success is somewhere in that. Is success possible? Yes, I think it's possible. In terms of catching it, I think. For the ship side, we obviously want to make sure that it actually comes in fully intact and lands at a precise location in the Pacific before we try to catch it at the launch site, because we're taking every precaution we can so that we do not risk any human lives or destruction of property. So it'll be a few flights. So for the ship, it'll be when we see the ship landing at a precise position in the water. that's when we will try to catch the ship with our Mechazilla on the tower. The booster, obviously, booster flights we've done many times on Falcon 9, so we're much more familiar and have a much higher confidence with booster recovery. We've actually had the booster boost back to land and land at Cape Canaveral Air Force Base many times, albeit with landing legs, not with the Mechazilla arms. So booster, I think that there's a decent chance, depending on when our licenses are granted, that we would catch the booster within the next year, or maybe less than a year, and then hopefully, if we get lucky, we might catch the ship towards the end of next year.
And where does the catch take place? Is it Willie Mays in the middle of the outfield over his shoulder, or is it Florida somewhere?
No, so both the booster and the ship come back to the launch site.
Okay, fantastic.
Yeah, that's what I mean by this. In fact, I mean the thing that is, since we need a giant tower with customized arms to lift the booster and the ship onto the launch pad, we don't absolutely need it. We can technically do it with humongous cranes on a low wind day. But that's quite unwieldy. The tower with the arms is capable of lifting the booster and the ship even on a very windy day, or moderately windy day. So then it just seemed to me that, well, if we can lift the ship and the booster, the ship onto the launch stand, or the booster onto the launch stand and the ship onto the booster with those same arms, we should be able to catch the booster and the ship with those same arms. We've gotten pretty good with the thruster-based landing, and in fact, we can make the rocket hover in midair. In fact, we were able to do that many years ago. If you look at the old Falcon 9 test videos, which we called Grasshopper, where we'd actually take the Falcon 9 booster and we'd have it just go up and hover at 100 meters, and then translate over another 100 meters, then translate back, and then come back and land. So we were able to do that really over a decade ago. It's not obviously very efficient with propellant to have a rocket hover, but it can be done. So that was, I was like, okay, well, let's just have the rocket come back and, hover briefly, and have then the arms come together and catch it. So that's the general idea. Is going back to what I was saying, it's not just reusability, it's rapid reusability. And it doesn't get more rapid than bringing it back to the launch site. And so in principle, the booster comes back very fast, by the way. One way or another, that booster is coming back to land, or it's going to land fast, because with the high thrust to weight that we're aiming for, which is sort of on the order of 1.3 to 1.4, and a staging ratio which is currently about 3 to 1 in favor of the booster. So propellant the propellant on booster to propellant on ship is about 3 to 1 on the current version, but it's trending closer to 2 to 1 on with future versions. That means that we're shifting more and more of the delta V burden to the ship side. That means the booster actually uses up its propellant quite quickly, and we'll trend towards only about 100 seconds or so of booster flight, and the booster will immediately flip around, boost back to the launch site, and land. And so it really, we're talking about the booster being back at the launch site in about 4 or 5 minutes, which is pretty wild to think. It's like a 5-minute booster basically. It's landed somehow, whether it's either crashed or it's landed it's been caught by the arms, one of the two, and within 5 minutes. And so then it lands back on the launch stand, and you can then refill propellant. The booster, the ship side obviously is going to take a minimum of an hour and a half to get around the planet. Still going pretty fast, but you got to circle the globe. And obviously that depends on what inclination, and so what's your launch azimuth, what's your inclination of the booster as to whether it has a flight coming back over the launch site or not. If it's technically possible to do it in a single orbit, depending upon your launch inclination.